Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Worldwide Nets podcast with your host, Chris and Joel. We currently have Nets World's own one and only from NetsKingdom, Saint, with us on the call. Hello, Saint. Welcome.
What's up, man?
Joel, I don't know if he is here right now. Oh, he is. We have just finished
Am I
off.
here? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
we just finished off the other podcast from last week, and we are now continuing on to conversations and expectations about what what's coming up next, and we'll ask Saint some of the same questions that we've asked Dre and Manny, who was on earlier as well from the last podcast, just to get his point of view on some of the things that we've been discussing. And I can also see that Cash has just opened up the pregame spaces, so we are getting pretty close to Nets at Clippers, just here in 2 hours' time. And I believe you're on the way to the game.
Yep. Taking my son down to his first basketball game. I live about an hour and a half from where Crypto Arena is, but yeah, I'm currently in early. See if I can get the little man a signature or something. And matter of fact, Jay from BK is going to be there. I'm actually going to finally get to meet him. So
Wait,
yeah, I'm excited. What's that?
oh, I was just like, oh yeah, that he texted me because I invited him in here as well, and he texted me saying he was on the plane. So yeah, that makes sense to me now why he's on the plane.
Yeah, he's flying out. So I'm catching today's game. Going to run into him there. I might go to the Laker game tomorrow. Haven't decided yet, but it's been a while since I've actually seen the Nets play in quite a while anywhere. So I'm excited. I can't
Hey,
wait.
man, you're lucky. I have yet to actually see them play live.
It's
I
been. I'm trying to remember who was there though. I don't think we had Katie and Kyrie. I almost want to think we had Deron Williams. It's been a while though, bro.
Man, yeah, that's was that when you still lived in Jersey or was that in Sacramento?
No, I've spent a good. I've never see. Okay, you said Sacramento, and I don't know if that's because of Brandon,
It
but I
might
have
be.
never lived in.
It
I've
probably
always
is.
no, I've lived in Jersey and out here west, back and forth. I've always lived in the general LA area since I've
Oh,
been
okay,
out here.
okay. All right, that makes sense. I just heard from
Yeah,
Mr. Battle Pants himself, you guys going back and forth, which I will never get tired of.
yeah,
That's
that's
absolutely amazing.
it. It is fun. I always joke with him because he lives by the Charlotte Hornets. He has
Ah,
season
yeah.
tickets, so I always bug him about him being a transplant fan. So yeah,
I see.
that's
I
how
see.
that started.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all cool. So yeah, you're going to the game right now. You bring in your son. First of all, I hope it's a great game, and I hope we come up with a W, of course. And are you going to be doing the halftime spaces, or are you just gonna, do your thing and watch the game?
Pretty much gonna do my thing until the game's over. I know Brandon is gonna do the spaces after the
Okay.
game, but it all depends on how the crypto arena reception is.
Yeah. Well, if it all comes to the worst, I think. Well, considering it's early game, I'll definitely be able to. Maybe we'll do a Worldwide Nets podcast halftime space. We don't know yet. We've done one before, and it was actually decently successful. Um, so
Nice.
we might do that. But yeah, let's get into it. So expectations for the upcoming season, because the season has been shaky so far. Steve Nash got fired. We talked a little bit about that. What are your viewpoints with Jock Vaughn being the new head coach and Steve Nash getting fired?
Um, Steve Nash. Well, first, let's just start with Steve Nash. I'm sure Steve Nash is a great guy. I've heard players talk about what kind of guy he is personally, so I don't want to trash him too hard. But as a head coach, never been comfortable from the beginning. I think this was a long time in coming. I think he had good intentions. He was trying to make it work, but he just never had what it took to really rein in a team and buy into his whatever game plan he was trying to do out there. I never really felt like he was truly It kind of always felt like it was people behind him setting him up with plays and setting him up with things, and he was just kind of like the mouthpiece out there. So for me, it was a long time in coming, and I was happy. I wish they would have done it in the off season, starting us out better on a better foot. potentially getting a better coach to start the season with, right? But
Yeah.
that's not where we find ourselves. As
So,
far as like, because I know what's that? Go for it.
so what about the Jock Vaughn, the hiring of Jock Vaughn? How do you feel about that and him taking over what Ime Udoka originally was planned to have?
Well, to know that you could have had eBay and then you wind up with Vaughn was a little bit hard pill to swallow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is the
I
only
get
the
that.
best way to say it. No diss to Vaughn, but I'm sorry, it's eBay, man. And knowing that you had this man on your coaching staff at one point and
Yep.
you
He
let
then
him go,
and then he
yeah,
coached circles around your coach as a first time
exactly,
head coach and went to the finals. Yeah, I absolutely understand, and
yeah.
I was rooting
So
for Ime as well.
that took a little bit of like thing when I first like, oh, we're not getting eBay. Oh, it's Jock Vaughn. Oh,
Yeah.
great. Like, but sitting back and watching since he's took over, um, at the end of the day, do I want him as our head coach? No. But looking at the current situation that we find ourselves in, I understand it. Once I understood it, here's a guy that's already in the organization. He already has a relationship with players. Um, the players do seem to respect him. And then once I got to that understanding, I started watching him during the few games, 4 games now?
4 games, yeah.
That
Fifth game
he's
is
been,
tonight.
yeah, exactly. I liked what I saw. I saw a man that actually was getting a clipboard instead of an iPad with a preset play. He was drawing up plays. He was communicating with people in the huddle. You saw people responding, which is something I never really saw before. It seemed like people were checked out when
Yeah.
Nash was coaching. But the other thing that I saw that I liked from Coach Vaughn was during the game, he wasn't just standing there on the sideline, either clapping or with like a lost stare. He was really coaching up a lot of the young guys
Yeah.
and pointing to spots where they needed to be. And like, I just couldn't like, I kept seeing that over and over. So
It felt
it
good.
made me feel better. Yes, it
It
did.
Yeah.
it felt really good coming from a coach who would just stand on the sideline and clap, essentially. But one thing I want to point out that is a major improvement over these 4 games compared to the last few seasons under Steve Nash, even like the start of the season under Steve Nash, the timeouts. The timeouts
Yes,
have been
I'll
absolutely
agree.
amazing.
I was gonna get. That was one of my points as well. Like he's not letting runs by the other team go, and he's not. You can tell he doesn't have just figure it out like mentality. Like if
No.
he sees it, he calls it, and I like that because that is like even if you feel like somebody's wasting it, like even if it's a 3-point run or a switch, like where they're coming down and they score, like because I don't necessarily look at okay, hey, say the score is they're beating us by 3. You know, people are, oh, why are you calling a timeout? Well, they just went on a 12-4 run,
Yeah.
right? Like you gotta pay attention to that, and call that. Where numerous times Steve was not doing that, and it was frustrating to see. So I'm
And
happy there, and by and large, he is a better coach.
absolutely.
Yeah.
He is.
That's
And
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also one of the things that I said is even though I was also not happy with the Jacques Vaughn signing, but what I also realized is that my predictions for the seasons were based on the roster, and despite having a bad coach, I still thought we could be a top 2 in the East, and I said we could be a top 7, top 8 defense if Ben Simmons will turn back into Ben Simmons. So if you think if you believe that, if you believe that the Nets were going to have a good season despite Nash, Jacques Vaughn is a superior coach, right? So that
absolutely.
means that we have a chance to, actually be a decent team, to be a good team,
We, we
with a better coach.
we still have a chance to be a championship contender. Of course, there's going to be some time to gel. We need to get Ben Simmons instead of Ben, which is what we have essentially right now. We need to get Ben Simmons, not just whatever this version of Ben is, and that's going to take some time. And I've said this multiple times, and I want to give him the opportunity, have a legit shot at coming back to himself, and it's going to take time. But one thing I want to point out, one specific timeout I want to point out from Vaughn is our latest game against the Knicks, coming out of half. I think there was some like 36 seconds played in the second half. They went on a 5 or 6-0 run, and Vaughn called a timeout immediately. No hesitation. He wasn't waiting or saving a timeout for later or whatever else you might, what we remember from Nash. No, like 6-7 point run, and Vaughn just said, no, this is not good enough. We need to lock back in. And he called the timeout and made it happen, because after that we stopped the run. We went on a run of our own, and Thibs didn't really do much to counter it. Also, he couldn't really do much because they were down so bad. But I mean, that's just Nets versus Knicks. Like, we've won 8 in a row now. We've won all the games in the Durant era, and I mean, as for the time that Kevin's been here, he hasn't lost to the Knicks. I think the last time he lost to the Knicks was like 2013, 2014, something like that, when he was still on the Thunder. Ben has never lost to the Knicks, which is still an ongoing streak. And I believe Kai's streak is pretty high as well. So there's nothing. I honestly don't have many complaints as of right now for Jacque Vaughn. I was also kind of putting a question mark in front of the hiring at first, especially because we've talked so much about him being the highest paid assistant coach in the NBA, not really doing much. But seeing him step into the role of the head coach, he's really proved himself. As at least in these last 4 games, we'll see how he does on this back-to-back in LA. But I'm expecting a win against the Lakers tomorrow, since I believe LeBron is not playing and Westbrook is coming off the bench now. Anthony Davis is, not to disrespect any players, but it's the matter of fact at this point. Anthony Davis is not the Anthony Davis of 2020, and Westbrook is not the Westbrook of 2020. Like, it's a different.
We're gonna have to see, because he's still a big body. So let's see how our big men react to playing Anthony Davis. But Saint, what I want to ask you is, what did you think of our defense under Jacque Vaughn, and were you surprised? Because I was shocked. I know, because he was our insistent defensive coach, right? His forte was being a defensive coach, and the defense was trash to start the season. So were you surprised by our defense over the past 4 games?
The reason why I'm going to say no, and I'm not putting blame on Vaughn, I just don't think our players were communicating. The language and energy was completely different when Steve Nash was the coach. And I think a big reason why our defense got better is because it looked like the players were communicating more. I think that message of how we were to play defense has always been there. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't think the energy and the effort were there.
No,
and it's
they've definitely rallied more together and become more of a unit, more of a team than they were before on their
Yeah, because you go back to that players-only meeting, I'm pretty sure that was part of the discussion in there. Like, because in the very beginning, preseason, we saw that we saw different energy, and then it disappeared.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think a lot of that had to do with Nash. I think a lot of it had to do with the way things were going. There wasn't language, and then Kyrie's situation hit, and you could already tell that there was stuff going on with Nash. And I just think when they had that players only meeting, that's like when the energy, I'm sure, was way down, and I'm pretty sure it was a lot of that discussion was like, yo, we're not talking out here. We're not doing this. Like, we need to step up and hold each other accountable, that kind of thing. And so I'm not too surprised when I saw that the energy completely shifted. I don't think we're a terrible defensive team, just to begin with. It's just, if we don't communicate, that's where we get in trouble. But when these guys communicate, make an effort, and let's be honest, when you're also on offense and you're communicating and you're clicking, they feed off each other. Right?
Yeah,
offense, defense feed the energy and the communication. I just think it makes, Katie said it yesterday. He's like, when you're playing honest basketball and you're communicating, it makes the game completely fun from every aspect.
Yeah.
And he's like, fans enjoy it, the players enjoy it. He's like, even the refs enjoy it. He's like, and I think that's what you're seeing, and I think that's part of the reason why the uptick of deep, because they're not really doing anything different than they were before. It's just, it's better effort, you know. And I think KD actually, the fact that KD has been hustling on defense has also lit a fire under other players in the team that are not necessarily known for defense, i.e., like Joe Harris.
Absolutely.
Stuff like that.
I think
Because that's a
as
crazy
you mentioned,
stat. That's a good point. It's a crazy stat that one-on-one defense, like in the first couple of games of the season, KD was dead last in the entire NBA. Dead last.
Yeah.
Right? And that's definitely changed. So, yeah, there's the energy has shifted, definitely.
I would also say, as you mentioned, Joe Harris. Joe has definitely he's not really that good from beyond the arc right now, but of course that's gonna come. You saw Seth go off the other night against the Knicks, which was great to see after he's had his struggles. But Joe is doing everything else but hitting the three ball, and that is defense, cutting, getting open looks, playmaking, passing. Like, he's doing everything else. He's not bringing the ball up because, well, Joe is not much of a ball handler. But
yeah, he's taking it to the rack better than he's shooting the three.
Exactly. And I love to see it, and I love to see him hustle. I think he had a couple of steals as well the other night. Him and Seth are playing better on defense. Having Edmond Sumner, who is just cutting, like, he is picking up full court, and he is cutting hard and doing a little backdoor cut, and like he hit, like, he was 3 or 4 from 3 against the Knicks as well. Like, he's starting to hit his shot. He's starting to get back in rhythm, and seeing DDJ come in and also have some positive minutes, also have some negative minutes, but have some positive minutes on the defensive side of the ball. Not really contributing much on the offensive side, but it doesn't really matter if you're contributing as much as he is on the defensive side. Yes, he's picked up some fouls early on, but otherwise, like, he's been pretty solid as well. Cam coming in and actually, like, looking like a better playmaker and being a better defender and actually trying on defense as well is something I really noticed pretty early on as well. But like, seeing that in the preseason was great to see Cam actually coming out and trying to play defense. But yeah, our bench production overall on both sides of the ball, and even Claxton has been great on both sides of the ball as well. Like, way better than we've ever seen him before. And I mean, Kevin stepping up and being scrappy, and I mean, Kyrie, we also saw Kyrie for the limited games that he's played. He's also playing harder on defense. He's also facilitating a little bit more. And Kevin had 12 and 12 with 29 the other night. Like, I don't have many gripes with this team at this point, except we do need the backup center because Dayron is just not ready. And it would be nice to have a more playmaking and defensive-minded point guard. But
I don't want to. I'm sorry. I don't want to poo-poo on your excitement. I will not sit here and pretend like I'm still not a little nervous, right? Because
I'm definitely nervous about the team. Like, don't get me wrong.
I still I definitely think there's a lot to feel better about since the beginning of the season, right? And some players are coming back soon. Like,
we have a different coming here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
They said, 2 weeks they'll reassess him. It's good to see that Seth Curry has arrived. Joe's getting back into it. We'll be getting Kyrie back, so we'll see how that implements into the new setup.
Sumner's doing pretty well coming off the ACL.
Yes, and Sumner, he's coming around. So, like, you're seeing stuff like that I think because I still think a lot of people forget how many people we've had injured to start the season, and it was going to take time for all of those players, Ben included, to really get into a rhythm, just like a personal basketball rhythm, being able to play the way they personally expect to play, and then you add that into a system. So there's definitely that. I want to go real quick back to Coach Vaughn, right? I'm at a place where I'm willing 100% to give Coach Vaughn a chance because A, partially we don't have a choice, but B, stranger things have happened. You never know. It could be a good thing for the team, but my biggest thing for this team going forward, and if it's really like something to get excited about, because quite honestly, I have zero expectations for the season. Like,
I believe we all should have zero expectations.
Yeah, I have zero. Like, I think we can make the playoffs. I don't whether you want to call that an expectation. I think we can easily do that, but I just I gotta see this team up against the upper echelon of the league. I gotta see them against the top teams in the East. I gotta see them against top teams in the West under Vaughn, and then we get everybody back. And that to me will be the real game. How serious we can take this team and how far we are away from being where obviously you want to be, which is the championship.
Yeah, and I think tonight is going to be a good representation, or today for you guys, it's going to be a good representation of, or at least like a hint of what it might look like going up against some of these more upper echelon teams, going up against the Clippers, who I believe are doing pretty well right now. Kawhi is not playing.
But the Clippers are not a top tier team at the moment, though. But
no, but they still have championship expectations just like we do. I know Kawhi is not playing tonight, which is kind of, we don't really get to see the Clippers at full strength, and of course we're also not at full strength, not having T.J. Warren, but we also don't know what T.J. Warren is going to look like yet.
And Utah is not there, of course.
Yeah, Utah is a big piece that we're missing, because he's been another bench player that's come in and just caught fire early on in the season. And Saint, I want to hear your thoughts on the bench and some of the players that we've acquired in the offseason.
Well, right. I mean, we'll just stay on Utah. Utah was I wasn't familiar with his game, and then when we picked him up, and I just started looking at it, like the position he played, like he's a tall 6'9" is. Like, I just started looking like, okay, hey, finally we're getting a player of a certain stature, like that 3-and-D wing that we need. Like, and then I really started watching highlights of him with like the Raptors, and I started talking to other people, like Raptors fans, about him, and I was like, yo, this is like a low key, like,
this is a
steal. Like a little bit of a steal. Like, he could fit. Like, I felt automatically just from like the way he is physically, and then watching how he played, I'm like, there's no way that this guy does not make an impact in our lineup, because at the current moment, he is way better than Kessler Edwards.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he has all the things that we wanted from a role player, bench player with energy. He's not afraid to shoot it. He's not afraid to go to the rack. He's not afraid to get dunked on, but he's doing all the other intangibles of hustle defense, making that extra pass, trying to dive on to get the ball. Like, he's a high IQ basketball type of player, which I was really happy to see. So
I don't want to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
I don't mean to cut you off, but it was just Brian Lewis just tweeted out that the Clippers head coach Tyronn Lue was quoted saying, "Jock has been waiting for a while. I thought he did a really good job in the bubble. It's a tough situation when you're firing a coach and you're bringing a new guy in, but he's very well deserving and he's ready." That's coming from Ty Lue directly.
That's what a lot of people have been saying.
Yes.
A lot of people have been saying that about Coach Vaughn, and I think a good portion of that has to do with a lot of people feel bad for him when he was in his early days when he was with Orlando Magic. Like, that was not a good situation for anyone to be in. So yeah, I mean, I think he has paid his dues in a lot of ways, but he also hasn't been in many winning or great situations. And I don't know if that's like, you could say, well, it's not fair enough to judge him, but would have another coach done any better than he did in Orlando? So that's not the first time, and I'm sure that won't be the last time we hear that from an opposing coach.
No, we talked about that earlier with Dre and Manny, and we actually discussed like that was a dumpster fire of a team to begin with. That wasn't solely on Jock's hands. It wasn't solely like him being the cause of the issue. No, the team was a dumpster fire. Like,
definitely. I just wanted to touch upon the Utah thing, because I have to say a little bit of an "I told you so," is because I remember in the preseason spaces, if you remember that, Saint, we were talking about who was going to make the roster and who wasn't, and a lot of people were high on even Markieff Morris, even Alanis Williams, getting a spot on the roster over Utah, and I said
Even
immediately, like,
DDJ. There was someone who was thinking like
Oh
DDJ
yeah,
could possibly
yeah,
come in.
yeah,
Jay
and I
put it.
said.
Yeah.
And I said then, like I've seen him play in Scotiabank Arena, right? Because my wife and I are in Toronto quite often. So, and I told him immediately, like Utah's going to make the team and he's gonna have an impact. And and it's clear, right? Like, and I think he's just an excellent fit. He looks happy. His teammates seem to like him. People feed off of his energy. And I just love it how he was flexing at one point, right? Like after. I think it was he not even a dunk? I think it was, but I don't know. I just
Kind
gotta
of like
love
Claxton
Utah.
always flexes for no reason.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
Claxton will do like a little layup put back and he flexes. But
Yeah.
I mean, dude, you see, but I think part of that too, when you see how Kevin Durant and some of the other players that have, a little more namestay in the league have responded to him, it
Yeah,
only does wonders for a player like Utah.
yeah,
And I'm with you. As soon as we got him, I was very high on him. People kind of clowned me a little bit. Jay did. Jay said we're in trouble if we're playing Utah, and I'm
I
like, nah,
remember
bro.
that
There's
one.
some. Yeah, I'm like, there's something special about this kid, and I mean, it is nice when you see a player and you love basketball and you see like. So we saw it, and kudos to us for seeing that because I think he's great. He
I
deserves a standard contract, hands down.
absolutely,
he
absolutely, and
does,
I
he
think he
does.
will. I think he will get it, and I wouldn't even be surprised if that's an extension as well at the same time.
Yeah, he's a player that you could get locked up cheap, in my opinion, as
Absolutely,
well.
like he's like the low risk high reward that we've kind of gone for this offseason with T.J. Warren, who's low risk high reward. He's not making that much money, and he's coming off of an injury. Hasn't played in 2 years. Same with Edmund Sumner, low risk high reward, and we've had a couple of them. Even Claxton is sort of a low risk high reward because he's a homegrown player and he's really developed and really taking a leap this year. And I kind of want to hear your thoughts on Nicholas Claxton from comparing him from last season to this season.
All right. I've had a love-hate relationship with Claxton.
I think we've all had that.
Because in the last 2 seasons, he gives you flashes of what you expect him to be, but then we see the opposite of that. So,
Yeah.
but I do have to give, considering how thin we are at the 5 and how disappointing Day'Ron Sharp's progression has been so far this season, I got to give him kudos, man. You can tell he's put in work. You can tell he's tried to work on his game around the hoop, because that was one of my only biggest complaints was that the only way he scores is if he gets a lob pass,
Yeah.
or maybe a put back dunk. And
We've seen him
it's
take
still
full court. Like we've seen him come off,
Yeah.
like start the break and run full court and dunk on somebody, or just get an easy layup and a foul, something like that. And he doesn't always make his free throws, but he's going and he has confidence
Yeah.
shooting.
yeah, exactly. Like he's always like that's been in his bag, but he looks a lot more confident running
Yeah.
the floor and taking
Absolutely.
it. But he's even tried to throw in like a little hook.
And
Yeah.
he had a beautiful hook against the Knicks the other night, like a beautiful little baby hook, almost Kareem-esque.
Yeah, so you can tell his hands have gotten better. He still looks like a deer in headlights when he gets the ball, and there's like more than one defender around him. He still is still rattled in that sense. But I think that will obviously change in time as he becomes more comfortable. But
Yeah.
overall, like I think he's gotten better at rebounding. He still has, some games where he's struggling. I think that will come when he's understanding and where to be in the right place. Obviously, he's not like a real heavy guy, so
But he
it's
still,
hard for him.
I think he still put on like I think it was 19 pounds of muscle.
15.
Yeah.
15 pounds of muscle. Yeah, he bulked up, and you could definitely tell from looking at him from last season to this season. You could tell he bulked up.
Yeah, and he's trying to. I mean, listen, it's one thing to be in college and high school but it's another thing to be in the NBA and learn how to manage the paint when you're the go-to guy there. And I think that's partly what we're watching as well. But he's great for the run and gun, the fast break. He's definitely like, man, if he was still playing like he had been playing the last couple seasons, we'd be in trouble, right? But
absolutely. I don't think he'd be on the team at that point.
I mean, who knows? Yeah, I mean, there's obviously value in him, and you weren't going to be able to replace him in the offseason. So, to me, it was a smart move to keep him.
Even
but
with,
I'm happy with it.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, I'm like, right now, I am extremely happy with what he's been able to do for us. The blocking, that was the other thing. That was the last thing I was going to say.
Averaging 2.2 blocks right now, yeah.
Yeah. The blocks have been huge. So if you're not known for being able to block a shot, people are probably going to attack you more. And the fact that he's become a better defender in that sense as well, I think bodes well. Like, you know, a player might not look to challenge him as much in the paint, which helps us on defense. So,
I mean, he's always been a solid overall defender, especially like being arguably the best switchable big man in the league. And he's been able to, like, we've seen him clamp down the Lucas of the world. Like, we've seen that with our own eyes.
Yeah, because
like,
I often
really giving Luka struggles and really like giving him help.
Yeah, because I think people underestimate it sometimes. Is, for example, I think it was the first game that we played against the Mavericks. I think when people say like, "Oh," we say like, "Hey, he played good defense on Luka." People look at the box score and say, "What are you talking about?" People don't realize is that Luka, scored like 1 out of 4 shots he took against Claxton, for example. Right? He was scoring on other people, not on Nick. Right? Like so that's something people sometimes don't realize. And I also feel with Claxton, I think it was his uncle who said that, and why I was a little bit disappointed in Claxton is he called him a 7-foot guard. Like, so apparently he can handle the ball much better than he does for us, right? Because he hasn't shown that to me.
He used to do that in college. Like, that was a big part of his game in college. And even with he did shoot a 3, it clanked off the side of the backboard, but he did shoot a 3 this season, and he also used to shoot the 3 pretty decently when he was in college.
Yeah.
I remember a specific highlight from him in I think it was his rookie debut where he shot a 3 and actually hit it.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, you got to imagine he had a different game in college, obviously, and in high school. And yeah, it is a complete different level. So you could get away with being a better dribbler and maybe having more time to shoot, especially when you're a taller individual. Yeah. So I wonder, as time goes on and he gets more comfortable with the NBA game and the style that which he's being asked to run, that I hope that he continues to work on. Like, I think he could get a mid-range. I think in a couple seasons you could see some better shooting from him all around. Is the way I'm looking at it. Like, yeah, so but overall, he's been a good force for us. Whether he stays the starter, depending on who we get, that's another debate. But overall, yeah.
So if I'm gonna put in "I told you so," then I'm also gonna put one that I was totally wrong, and Chris was wrong for this one as well, and that's Ben Simmons and Nick Claxton on the floor at the same time.
Yes, I gotta admit it.
I was nervous.
I gotta admit it. I did think it looked pretty good at first, and I still think it looked pretty good at first. But seeing it more in depth and seeing more than just a little sample size, it doesn't look great. I still wouldn't call it absolutely horrific, but it doesn't look good. Like, the spacing they need is not. No, it's not ideal.
I mean, the biggest thing for me at that is that defensively it's okay. Right?
Absolutely, like, and that's my point with it. Defensively, two of are arguably our two best defenders on the court at the same time, and them both being 6'10" plus and can guard the perimeter all the way to the post.
I think it's one of those conversations that we're going to have to revisit, only because if Ben Simmons was where he was offensively before all the problems hit him, it may have a potential. It may have a potential to work because you wouldn't then be having another guy that like gets the ball at the top of the key, takes like a dribble or two, and then looks to hand it off to somebody, because that's basically like Ben and Clax look virtually the same when they get stuck with the ball
Yeah.
outside of the paint, and it kills an offensive flow. And it's like one thing to deal with it from one player, but when now you have two key players that are pretty much killing the flow like that, it just offensively it looks nasty. And who knows, maybe if Ben returns to the guy that's willing to drive and dunk on somebody, and is not just hanging out and clogging the paint or is standing, it might work again. But at the current moment, yeah, I was always kind of nervous of that, and I'm glad that they've gone away from that. And
Yeah.
I'm glad they've used Ben slightly kind of like how they've used Clax, and it has worked. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
okay with that.
I do want
Because that's also what the problem is that it can't work. You remember how Brook Lopez used to be and still a little bit is allergic to rebounds, right? Like that. Like Ben Simmons is allergic to looking at the basket, right?
Yeah.
And as long as that's the case, it can't work. It just can't.
I do want to push back a little bit on the Claxton being a deer stuck in headlights, as you said earlier, when it comes to him.
Well, that's
it
it in the paint when there's more. But that's in the paint when there's more than one defender around
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I get that.
That's all
But as you
It's
just
very specific. Yeah.
as you just mentioned with them receiving and stopping play essentially at the top of the key or whatever. Like I've seen Claxton multiple times just this season. I know the season's been very short. It's still a short preview of what could become, but I've seen him multiple times take a dribble or two, and then he's in the paint, and then he's dunking on somebody, or having a layup to contact, or even a backdoor cut, and now he's wide open for a layup or something like that. Like I've seen him do that little 1-2 dribble into the paint multiple times.
I agree with that, but that's slightly different from what I'm talking about, where he's already established in the paint, and the ball either goes into him.
Oh, okay.
Or
I
he
see what
gets
you mean.
yeah. That's why I'm saying, yeah.
Okay,
No,
yeah.
it's only when he's either established in the paint or he gets a rebound. There's still that. It's easy for the opposing team defensively to kind of rattle him a little bit,
Yeah.
and that's where that's why I kind of touched on it earlier a little bit too, where it's like you can see the progression of him getting a little bit of a game while he's already in the paint has changed. And that's where I think with a little bit of more time is where he learns to either not force it when he has more than one defender and looks to kick out more, or he realizes who's on him and he can either go up over them, or because you know that once you have that ball up high and you bring it down low, you're in trouble sometimes
Yeah.
if you're a big man. So that's where I was being more specific in that sense. But you're 100% right, where he has definitely learned to look for the lane and
Yes,
know
absolutely.
that he can make the dunk, that nobody is going to stop him
That
dunk
little
wise.
that 1-2 power dribble that he does every now and then he's right at the hoop.
Yeah, I will agree 100%. Yeah, his ability to go to the rack has improved drastically compared to the last two seasons, for sure.
You saw him.
But I also feel that you can sort of see that someone like Utah, for example, you can tell that he has a higher basketball IQ, because I feel like when Utah has the ball in traffic, he almost always makes a good decision, right? And Clarkson is the guy that needs a little bit more coaching. And I also feel now with Jacques Vaughn, I feel also that the communication has improved. So I think it's also going to be even a bigger plus for Claxton. Now, Claxton is already a plus this season, but with more communication, Claxton is going to thrive even more, I feel.
Absolutely. And you've already seen him. He's tried to yam it on some people. Like, I believe, was it Jericho Sims the other night? He really tried to yam it on. Unfortunately, it didn't go, but he got fouled on that. But that would have been a filthy one.
Yeah.
But to touch back on the Ben Simmons and him, like you've also said, kind of like being a deer stuck in headlights every now and then. I think with him not looking as much at the hoop, I think it's part of him not being comfortable or trusting his body enough just yet. especially with him just having was it knee? I believe it was some knee soreness or something like that, and him coming off the injury and all that and everything that went on and getting the surgery and what on the offseason. I think he needs to come back into being or trusting his body.
Yeah, and he seems afraid almost of the hoop sometimes. And I'm really not saying this to be funny, because some people are killing Ben Simmons, especially Sixers fans. That's crazy. But when I first moved to Germany, I experienced, unfortunately, someone jumping in front of a train, right? And I remember then. When the first time that I got near a subway station again, and then I needed to physically put distance between me and the entrance to the subway station. It was weird, and it only happened the one time, right? Ever since, I mean, I've been riding the subway, I'm fine. But the first time that I saw the entrance to the subway station, I needed to physically remove myself from it. And I feel, especially in the very beginning of the season, Ben sometimes feels that way. The way he naturally moves away from the basket, it's sort of like also definitely a mental issue. And I really feel that a lot of the people in the media who said that his whole story about his mental health was a lie to try to get out of Philly, they really owe him an apology. Like, you don't know what people are dealing with privately, but to me it's so clear that that he's dealing with more than just rhythm. It's really more than that.
It's health, and it's mental health as well. Like, it's a lot combined, and he might look in good spirits and whatnot. Like, I look in good spirits as well for most of the time, unless we're going through all the drama and whatnot. But I'm dealing with my stuff personally as well, that I don't need to go out and tell everybody. And some people might think, oh well, that doesn't really make sense. But like, you can still be smiling and outgoing, but still deal with your own stuff.
Absolutely.
I think there's a separation of two things here. Like, I'm with you guys 100%, right? When you have outside things in your personal life that are causing mental health issues, whether it's anxiety or whatever it is, right? Like, it does affect your whole life. It affects your job. Like I know if I've been depressed before or dealing with something and I still go to work, doesn't necessarily mean I stop feeling those things. So
no, exactly.
I do think Ben is actually in a really good place in those things, from what people have said, from what he said in interviews.
I'm with you on that, and I agree with that.
But I do think, and we've all, I think, have talked about having personal injuries. And I know me right now, like, I'm still kind of rehabbing, like, from when my back went out. Granted, I didn't have surgery, but it's one of those injuries where it's like, if I don't treat it right, and I'm not careful with certain things, like, I can easily re-injure it without a problem. And I've seen, just from little interactions and certain things I do, either at work or hanging out with my kids or like doing stuff around the house, I do find this level of, I don't know if you want to put anxiety, but apprehension.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or once I get into certain situations where I'm now thinking about my back, where I never like gave it a thought in the world, it does like affect my actions. And it's like, I think it is very fair to say that Ben is still experiencing those things with his back. Like, I think it very much is more related to that than actually like outside mental health issues. I just think there is massive apprehension to really get in there and get dirty or go up for a dunk or just run in with it without, with like kind of like a little bit of reckless abandon to like open up the paint. And I think you've seen that. It's interesting that on defense, he looks a lot more engaged and physical than offense.
Yes.
And some people have talked about that it may be easier to play defense with a back. Like, either way, it is interesting that defensively he is a lot more active, and when he's running and dishing the ball, you're not complaining or have an issue. But as soon as it comes to offense,
yes,
there seems to be a level of apprehension, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is some level of like, hey, I don't want to get fouled because then I have to shoot. That's anybody's guess like, I think he talked in the interview with JJ Redick, like, he kind of alluded that I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. But there clearly is something going on where you literally see him. He'll have either a short guy on him or he's got a wide open paint. And he just like stops halfway and either doesn't turn around and just toss it over the dude, or he literally stops before he gets into the paint and he passes it out.
Yeah,
So,
or he shoots a floater, and I'm like, dude, if you take 3 more steps, you can dunk that thing. But then he shoots a floater, all right? Like,
yeah,
not
or
even
your
3 more
floater.
steps. 1 more step, and he's right underneath. He's 6'10".
Yeah, and
he's long strides.
And even if he's not dunking it, you're telling me you take a step to 1 to 3 steps in further, and that's not like an easy for you, like an easy like one-hander right in the hoop, like
finger roll, whatever. Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah,
like you're 6'10". You can finish. You're 6'10", and you're very athletic. Even, I mean, he's not as athletic as of right now because of the back, but still, you're very athletic. You have a bit of a vertical. You can finish over pretty much everyone, even with a finger roll.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. I mean, granted, I think some teams are getting teams are moving away from the shorties and like moving towards taller guys. But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. And speaking of like the bench, I'm glad he's coming off the bench. I don't know how long they're going to keep that for. I think they should have done this from the beginning of the season with minute restrictions.
And as I said in Spaces yesterday, like people try to fry me for saying that in the offseason.
Nah, I mean, okay, I will say this. This is where I get mad at the Nets. The Nets really kind of sell you on where they like to tell you where a player's at, but they never, like, they're always, like, giving you the impression that the guy's ready to go.
Yeah.
But then more and more,
he's not really.
And again, it's not even, it's the same thing with Seth and Joe. Like, those guys weren't 100%. There's no way you could tell me they were 100% when they came back. You could tell they were still uncomfortable and still looked like to be nervous about their ankles. So we'll see. I like what they're doing right now. I will be interesting to see how long they continue. It does solve the Ben and Clax problem. It does give you a little different energy. He's looked more comfortable coming off the bench the last 2 games. So we'll see how long it goes.
There's two quick things that I want to say because I'm gonna faint, so I need to eat something soon now. So I need to pop out in a minute.
I got 9 minutes until I pull off the highway and I'm at crypto.
I was thinking somewhere like 9-10 minutes because we're shy of an hour now, and I think we're gonna end it by the end of the hour.
So the one thing that I wanted to say is, Utah is gonna be cheap because this calendar year he played for the Raptors 905. So he's been playing in the G League this year. So it's definitely a steal, and he shouldn't be that expensive. And the other thing that I wanted to say in regards to Ben, you totally feel like he like what was it? Oh no, this is what I wanted to say. So what pissed me off is that when the reporters asked, I think it was Nash, if there's any discomfort with Ben's back, he said like, no, there's no discomfort. Right? Like I feel like you're throwing someone under the bus if you clearly see that he's hampered by something, be it physically or mentally. I think on multiple occasions the Nets have said, no, as far as he's aware, there's no discomfort. Like why would you say that? I don't understand that.
Well, we've known for the last couple of seasons that Steve Nash is a generational liar.
That's fair.
That's been the case. But I want to start finishing off saying I appreciate you for coming up, but I want to, just to finish off, I'll limit it to the road trip that we're going on now. What are you guys' expectations for the road trip? I'll start off with you saying.
I think my expectation is to still kind of see what we have been seeing. I think they're going to continue to I want to see them continue to communicate on defense, like just put effort out there, right? Like I'm not expecting W's. Like I'm not expecting a sweep.
Are you expecting a W against the Lakers?
I'm not expecting anything, bro. I really, like where I'm at, I'm not expecting a damn thing because because honestly, like, you just don't know where this team is going to be from game to game, and it's like we're not even.
That's a fair point.
Like, you don't have Kyrie, you don't have Utah. Like, we're missing a lot of pieces. I expect us to play hard and communicate still, but I'm not putting any crazy. I'm not putting any expectations on this team right now, bro, because we're got a new coach. You're not in full strength, so I just want to see effort. That's my expectation. Is like, I want effort, and if you give me effort and you show me that you're trying to run a game plan, and you show me that you're trying to build something that we can kind of be proud of as fans, I'm not going to trip out when you lose. Like, we're out of a lot of conversations right now, so. No, I'm not expecting wins. Like, I think tonight's probably going to be our hardest game out of the next 3. Absolutely. But yeah, like, and if we could come away with a W tonight, oh man, like, I'll be. That'll make me feel a lot better and maybe change my view how the rest of the road trip will go. But yeah, I'm not putting any win expectations on this team right now. I'm just not. I just want to see good, hard effort basketball. Honest where the guys are communicating. Like, Kevin, so. Exactly like Katie said. I just want to see honest basketball, and we'll see what happens by the end of the game. Like, that's literally where I'm at.
Do you think Kevin is going to break Michael Jordan's record of however many straight 25-plus games to start the season?
Ooh. How many more does he have to go?
I think it's somewhat in the 20s, and he's at 11 or 12. So there's still quite a few games.
There's no reason he can't. Yeah, but I mean, considering he's the only guy out there and Kyrie's going to be the other guy, there's no reason. Is it 20 or 25?
I can't remember exactly how many it is, but I know it's in the 20s.
No. I mean, he has to score what, 25?
25 plus per night. 25 plus per night.
Ooh.
Which he's very much capable of.
There's no reason. Yeah, he's very much capable of it. Whether I'm sure he's going to give a good run at it, but I could easily see a couple games where he falls short and gets like 21 to 24, like in that range. So whether they're making it.
He's already either tied or broken his own record, which I believe he was second.
He broke it.
He broke it? Oh, yeah, so he's at 12 games now. 12 games straight of 25 plus. And he
has it. I mean, listen, is he capable? Yes. Whether he does it, I don't know. That just the way the Nets are playing, we'll see. I mean, he at the current moment, him being the only individual there, yeah, if that was going to be the case for a while, yeah, I could say he probably would do it. But I don't know. When Kyrie comes back, that kind of changes the dynamic a little bit.
Absolutely. Do you think he's going to come back on the road trip, or do you think he's going to come back when we get back on?
Oof. I mean, technically, if we're going by the 5, he should play Lakers, but I wonder if they're going to just have him. I wonder if they're just going to. Yeah, I don't think he is, but it would be pretty cool if he did, though.
Yeah, but
definitely would be amazing.
I want to let Joel finish with his closing thoughts, and then we'll pack up and probably head over to the Cassius Ransom or Conspiracies pregame spaces and talk more hoop over there before we kick off in about an hour.
So so when it comes to the streak of Michael Jordan, I think he'll break it. I mean, he scores 25 plus in 75% of the games he's played for the Nets. That's already pretty terrific. When it comes to the road trip, okay, so the irrational Nets fan in me says we're going to go 3-1. But
who do we lose to?
I'm going to get to that. But the more realistic fan in me say we're going to go 500. So if we're going to lose against the Lakers tomorrow, I don't know what I'm going to do to myself, but it will ruin my entire weekend. So we have to beat the Lakers, especially the LeBron-less Lakers.
I believe we're going to
I think the trap game is the Sacramento game. I think that's the trap game.
The Sacramento game last season.
It's a trap game. So I think we're going to start 2-0. We're going to beat the Clippers and the Lakers, and we're going to lose against the Kings. And I think the Portland game is going to be a close one, but the Portland is playing good even without that Dame. right? So we shouldn't
Absolutely.
underestimate the Trailblazers.
You had the
So
Josh
I
Hart.
think,
You had the Josh Hart buzzer beater game winner the other night.
yeah. So that's my prediction. We win the first two, we lose the final two.
Yeah, that sounds like a good prediction to me. For my closing thoughts on it, I'd say it's gonna be a nail biter tonight against the Clippers. Tomorrow should be a walk in the park. To put it nicely, I have no expectations for the Lakers whatsoever. They are down bad over there in LA. I hope we bounce back from last season's game in Sacramento, which was luckily the last game that Mr. James Harden played. After that, I was more than fed up with him and wanted him gone, and I got my wish. He was gone. That was the last game he played. And then was it the Portland Trailblazers the next game? I think that's also going to be a bit of a what do you call it? Nail biter. But with that, I think we should finish up. Saint, I'll let you get to the game. I hope you have a great experience watching the Nets and watching these new Nets without Kyrie and without Yuta, but still getting to see Kevin Durant and the rest of the team in action live. For I believe you said it was the first time.
Yes, it's been a while since I've been able to catch a game, so I appreciate you guys. This was fun.
Absolutely,
Literally
you're more than welcome to come
pulling
up
up.
whenever.
Appreciate you, man. I'm literally pulling up to the crypto center, and I think it's a fitting way to get off. You guys have a good one, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you after the game as well.
Absolutely, I'll try to see if I can spot you in the stands.
Later, man.
Later.
Ciao.
All right, I think that was a good talk. We got 2 episodes recorded this time around. Joel, I'll let you go get something to eat.
Thank you.
And then we're going to enjoy tonight's game. We're going to hopefully beat up on both LA teams this weekend, and hopefully we can come away with a solid win, or even I'll accept a close win, or honestly, I'll accept a close loss just to see how they might bounce back tomorrow of the second half of the back-to-back coming up against the Lakers. And then we have the Sacramento Kings. I really expect them to blow the doors off them, even though I know Demontis Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox and all of them over there has been playing really solid lately. The same with the Portland Trailblazers. But I do expect the Portland Trailblazers to be more of a close game, especially after acquiring Jeremy Grant and seeing how Josh Hart stepped up to the plate and Dame coming back. I don't know if Dame is playing in the game, but it doesn't matter for now. But with that, I would like to end it off. And you can follow me on Twitter at Danish Nets Fan. You can follow Joel on Twitter at Dutch Nets Fan. And you can follow us at Worldwide Nets Podcast, but without the O in world. Worldwide Nets Podcast was taken. But with that, I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank everybody for tuning into the live stream. And we'll close it out from here. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.